It's no secret that mainline churches are going through a really difficult time right now, and that a lot of mainline churches are going to be closing in the next couple of years. The situation is so significant that there's one author whose name is Phyllis Tickle, and she has said that we are in a period right now which she considers the next great Reformation, comparable to the Reformation that Martin Luther pioneered many, many years ago. It's really interesting because if you look at all the various gurus who comment about this, no one knows what the new church is going to be like. No one really knows. Will they be house churches where people gather in people's homes? Who knows? No one really knows. But what I thought was interesting is that our bishop came out with something, Bishop in New England, his name is Jim Hazelwood. He came out with something this week when he was commenting about this. And he sees two things that are going to happen in the future. The first is that churches are going to be really concerned about their involvement in the community and helping people in the community. I think especially of our food collection. This week we're going to be preparing the meal for the soup kitchen in town. I think Beverly, you're involved with that, right? What day are we doing that?
November 8th.
November 8th, so it's 2 weeks we're going to do that. The other thing that he mentioned in his blog is that the new church will probably have a major emphasis. Does anyone want to take a guess? A major emphasis on meditation and contemplation, which we're doing. I think half of our congregation is involved with our meditation and spiritual movement program, which is based on Tai Chi, that we have midweek at our congregation. He said that there are 2 churches in New England who have regular programs. This church and my old church. So anyway, I had to put that plug in. I think he gets his ideas from me, but I'm not going to challenge him.
Did you get that, Jeff?
I did.
Oh, no. Bishop is wonderful, and we are greatly appreciative. All of this is foot in mouth. Huh? Okay. One of the issues that I think that we need to look at are what I consider to be the basics of the Christian faith, which is to love God. And we've explored what that means. I think centering ourselves on God, being aware of God's blessings, living with that consciousness. And that's what spirituality is. It's consciousness. Do I live with that awareness that I'm a child of God? Do I live with the awareness that God is with me, that I'm blessed by God? And the other aspect of that is, what is my relationship like with the people around me? And specifically, do I live in what I would call kind of a love relationship with people? And what I'd like for us to consider this morning are the motivations that undergird this kind of love of neighbor. What are those motivations? And what I suggest to you is that we can look at them as kind of a continuum of why we love others that culminates over here, but I'm going to start here. I recall going to, a long time ago, a synod meeting, and there were 6 of us there, and we were discussing, this was like, gosh, pre-Civil War, it was like 40 years ago. And we were discussing the Heart Campaign. Does anyone here remember the Heart Campaign a long time ago? I actually came to this church to make a presentation about it. That's when I met Pastor Jon. The Heart Campaign, we were discussing this, and one of the senior pastors, I was brand new, said, you know, typically what we do is we hit people with a wet noodle of guilt. And then for a lot of people, what motivates their love for other people is we do so out of guilt. You see it on TV ads all the time. You see someone who's very poor or a child, and as a result we feel really guilty. I've got enough. I've got more than enough. I really ought to share what I have. And so I love others out of guilt. That's one motivation for a lot of people. Next level. If you ever go to high school reunions, everybody at the reunion says, we're going to all kick in to support this particular thing for our high school. And so 40, 50, 60 people are going to contribute to this, or maybe it's a Rotary thing, or the ELCA Club, or something like that. And they're all going to contribute, and therefore I think to myself, well, I'm part of this group, I guess I ought to help out too. It's a sense of I ought to, I should. It's the responsible thing to do. So sometimes we're motivated by guilt. Sometimes we're motivated by my sense of what I ought to do. I feel responsible to do this. And so I love others, or I give to others for that reason. Next on line, I referred to this a few weeks ago. I don't know how many of you have gone through this, but I remember this well. If the cooks give us a gift for our child, give the child a gift, we know the cooks have remembered our child's birthdays, and that's wonderful. And then later on, when the cooks have an event in their family, we feel as though we owe them. And if we owe them, we're going to provide a gift, and that will erase the debt, and we'll be free. Have any of you experienced that?
I think.
So we give to others out of a sense of preserving our own freedom, just to repay the debt. I sometimes wonder whether people support their old schools because they feel indebted. And once I make the gift, I am then free. Guilt, a sense of responsibility, pay off the debt. Now let's move to other motivations that might be considered to be a bit more positive. My old congregation, and I'll do this here too, if someone was going into, I remember this family especially, he was going in for heart surgery and he was getting a pacemaker. And so I went to the hospital to pray with him before the surgery, and I sat with his wife during the surgery. My mentality being, what makes anxiety worse is when we go through it alone. Everything turned out fine. A year later, there was another family in our church, another couple. She was going in for surgery. And that man, who had just had the heart procedure, came up to me after worship. And he said, John, don't worry about waiting with her husband. I looked at him. And he said, I will go to the hospital alone. He had been so touched by the fact that I went away with his wife. He found that so meaningful that he wanted to do the same thing for another couple. We love others because it adds meaning and value to our lives. Now, the flip side of this is that if we go through a situation and we're really hurting and in pain, and no one cares about us, we feel anger. No one was there for me. And that can move us in two ways. One, I don't want to have anything to do with anybody. Or two, I don't want another person to go through what I went through. So out of my pain, I will seek to be a support and a presence to other people. Out of my pain, I can decide, forget it, I don't want anything to do with anybody because I'm so embittered by it. Or out of my pain, I can decide, I don't want others to go through that. In other words, we love other people out of compassion. So we have a series of motivations here. We have a sense of guilt that moves me to care for others because I'm so blessed. I feel guilty about it almost. A sense of responsibility. I'm part of the organization, I'm part of the class, therefore I'm going to participate. We have a sense of indebtedness that moves me to want to kind of pay off the debt. We have this desire for meaning and fulfillment, and by giving to others, I may find that meaning and fulfillment. We also have this sense of compassion we have for others, that I've gone through pain, I don't want you to go through it the way I did. And so I'm going to care about you out of my compassion. Now, the height of love is what we see in Jesus. There's one step before that. And that is we love because we want to make a difference. We want to make a difference. It's a wonderful story. I'm sure many of you have heard it before. There's a great storm. It's at the coast. And there were hundreds and hundreds, perhaps even thousands of starfish that were washed up as a result of the storm. And there was an older woman who was walking along the beach, and she would pick up a starfish and throw it back in the ocean. A young person was there and said, there are hundreds and thousands of these. Do you really think what you're doing is making much of a difference? And so the woman reached down, picked up a starfish, looked at the starfish, looked at that young person, threw it into the ocean, and said, made a difference to that one. And she kept going. So we love. There's the guilt issue. There's the sense of responsibility. There is repaying the debt. There is seeking meaning for our lives. There is love out of compassion. We love to make a difference. The height of love, though, the culmination of it, it's really what the church, I hope that we screw up all the time doing this. I mean, individually we mess up all the time too. I hope that this is our vision to love the way Jesus loved. How did Jesus love? Well, I have two examples I'm going to leave you with. Two examples. And I don't like to use myself as an example, but I'm going to because it's just so practical. When we moved to this area, we live at the end of a 2-mile-long dirt road. You know, it's bucolic nature. I love driving through the trees, and it's just really very nice. It suits me because I grew up in the city. And after about a week or two, what I noticed is that there are all these cans and bottles on the side of the road. And the old man said this. He said, it's the nature of the scorpion to sting. It's my nature to love. And he reached down to save more fish. As a church, we are called to have this nature as Christian people. This is what we ascribe to. This is our vision. We fall short all the time. That's one of the Lutheran slice of the Christian pie is an awareness of our sinfulness, that we fall short all the time. But our vision is to work toward this vision so that we love because that's who we are. It's nothing to do with repaying a debt, nothing to do with all that other stuff. It's just who we are. We seek to care. May that be a vision for all of us in our walk with God's Spirit. And may we take those moments of introspection to evaluate at some level, where am I really coming from here? Can I reach to that vision with God's strength and love? Because that's what I'm all about. Thank you for your attention. In Jesus' name.